Welcome. I'm Debbie Rosas, and you're listening to Get In, a podcast dedicated to getting into conversations about the body and about life. I'm the founder of Nia, an international somatic, body centered movement art practice. It is dedicated to the fitness, health, and well being of your body and your life. It is a lifestyle, a practice, and also a holistic workout that touches on all parts of being human. And being human is what I love about my guest today, Billy Anderson. He has a unique and inspiring message, and he himself is unique. When it comes to getting into the body, getting into a lifestyle, getting into a workout, getting into practice, he walks the talk. Hi, Billy. Welcome.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to go on this conversational journey with you.
All right. Well, as you and I were talking, there's something that happens when you're talking about esoteric things that have, well, maybe could say they're a little bit woo woo, but we're going to talk woo woo and we're going to also talk about things that are very, very practical in this call. Now, Billy has touched my life in personal ways. And I believe everything happens by being in a relationship. And in relationship with the most important person in my life, that's my body. In relationship with the most precious thing I own, that's my body. But also in relationship with people, people that can guide me, people that have more knowledge and wisdom. I love learning, and Billy has a lot to share, not only with me, but with you as well. Now, one of the things that I have discovered from working with Billy is that the idea of recovery has a whole new meaning. The fact that Nia is a workout can be a recovery based workout, I never thought of it. And also, I've been passionate about the hero's journey, but Billy's spin on the hero's journey, you're going to love. We're going to talk all about this. But before we do, let me tell you a little bit about Billy. Trained martial artist, eclectic, quite eclectic, somatic educator, and owner of a fitness business. He's a husband, he's a father. And as of last year, a white belt graduate, he just did an amazing job hosting one of our trainers, Kelly Ray Oyen. He presented the white belt in his beautiful studio, and his students of all ages participated, bringing the white belt into the work that he does with them. When it comes to personal training, it's the very, very best. He is a master certified personal trainer, nutrition coach, somatic coach, Nia instructor. And also, he has special training in corrective exercise, behavioral change, performance enhancement, mixed martial arts conditioning, senior fitness, and active isolated stretching, the MATS method. In addition, he and I share a really interesting relationship with someone. He's a certified somatic coach through the Strozzi Institute. Now, when I met you, Billy, and we started finding that we had this connection with Richard Strozzi Heckler, I was like, okay, this guy's on my woo-woo wavelength. I really like what he's into. Um, Share a little bit about coming from all that training that you've got, and you were coming from a fitness perspective. What
hmm
happened when you met Richard, and how did that set you on a new hero's journey path for yourself?
Well, that is quite a story because like most trainers, I was trained classically in the body as a machine, and that you just learn its levers and pulleys and chemistry. And by, exposing it to certain stressors, it would perform for you. And essentially, that's how I saw the body as a machine. And so meeting Richard um, and his experience and definition of this other side of the human person, the somatic body, the body that we feel from the inside out, not that we just measure from the outside in, just opened this portal for me and of this world that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know existed in me. And I
Uh-huh.
certainly didn't even know it existed in my clients. So that's it. It was like drinking from a fire hose that first weekend. It was a Wisdom of the Body seminar at Feathered Pipe Ranch. And it was just, I had all I could do to make space in my nervous system to take all of what he had to share in. And then it has been decades of processing it and practicing it and integrating it.
When you talk about the hero's journey, which we're gonna get into a little bit more, do you feel that walking into that environment and having kind of like a preset understanding of what fitness should look like and should feel, do you feel that that shift, that transition, that opening up of your mind, body, emotion, spirit to something new, was that really for you the beginning of stepping on the path of a hero's journey that has brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. In that frame of Joseph Campbell offers for all of us to navigate our physical experience on this world. That there was the call to adventure, and as I was introduced to this whole new world, which was very unfamiliar to me, very very woo woo. Um, Not sure if I should be doing this, based on all my training and all my beliefs. And there was this draw, and at the time I didn't know about the hero's journey, but it was calling me. It was a longing, and I sensed that once I stepped across the threshold, I didn't have language for it at the time, but I felt like if I stepped across the threshold, there was no fully a way to return to my old way, and I did it anyway. The longing was just palpable and compelling, so I stepped across into this world.
I love that about what you call, a pull. Sometimes it's a push, right? It's like you're going to do this. Other times there's this intuitive, as you said. You talked about the felt sense, knowing that I really don't know where I'm going, but I know I should be going. And so
Mhm.
stepping over that threshold into that new world with a sense of curiosity. Was taking Nia like that for you? Did you feel that there was a pull and it was another, "I think I should be doing this" kind of sensation?
Experiencing Nia for the first time was like coming home.
Mhm.
And by the time I had met you at that first workshop in Las Vegas, I had taken it. I think it was called somatic anatomy, and I thought, well, I have to take that. And I didn't know the term Nia or the practice. And so when you were guiding us, I was just like, oh, this feels like all the somatic work. Like I just felt like, oh, I'm home. I'm home. I'm doing what feels life giving, and it feels familiar at that point. So I moved towards an expansion of what already felt life giving.
Beautiful. And you know what I love about being pulled? I believe that when we're pulled or we're pushed to go over a threshold, really what is guiding us is an initial dream. And sometimes we've forgotten what the dream and the vision was that we put out to the universe. But you had a dream, and it has dreamed itself into a reality of a business called Heroic Fitness Adventures. I love those words together, heroic. Who doesn't want to feel like what they're doing is a heroic act? And And fitness, the definition of fitness, being able to adapt. Who doesn't want to adapt?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
an adventure. Life is an adventure. Why not make every moment part of that adventure? That brings with it that curiosity, that wonderment, and that excitement, which I think is so important. I know you hold another dream and a vision for the embodied unification of what is traditionally known as fitness and the
Mhm.
somatic practices, or what you call the somatic body, to be authentically, I love that word authentically. We're going to talk about what that means to you, authentically manifested in all aspects of your business and culture, from operations to leadership to the fitness programming that you offer. What do you mean by authentically manifested? Because I think, how could I manifest it other than authentically? But then I thought, well, I guess I could follow somebody else's path and that wouldn't be authentically mine. What do you
Mhm.
mean by that?
Well, that's a great question. Is that similar to what you said? These somatic ways of being, these somatic practices, are just a mastery path for me. I get up every morning. I do my muscular and armory release. I go through now. I've added
Wait a
the
minute. Wait a minute. What is a muscular and armor release? You're not going to sneak past that. Tell me what is a muscular and armor release, because I want that.
Yeah. Well, it's the work I learned in my work in somatics, which is the work of Wilhelm Reich. He was a contemporary of Freud, and he was the first psychotherapist to incorporate the body into psychotherapy. That he noticed that he was doing psychotherapy, that each person's body had predictable contractions based on the story they were telling,
Mhm.
and he developed five Reichian character structures that there's the schizoid structure, there's the oral structure, the masochistic structure, the psychopathic structure, and the rigid structure, and that we have a dominant one, and but we have a mix of different ways life has shaped us. And so this was part of the training, and the awareness is to be able to identify, learn in your own body where those armory bands are: the eyes, the jaw, the neck, the shoulders and chest, the diaphragm, the belly, the genitals, the pelvic floor, the thighs, the shins, the feet. And under pressure, we all, based on our shaping, can squeeze off predictably parts of ourselves in order to move through an experience. And we become very predictable. Like once I squeeze my jaw, lock up my diaphragm, and lock up my pelvis, pretty much going to say a certain thing. You can know that I'm going to say, I'm going to behave in a particular way, and there's no awareness. My shaping, or in some cases, my shaping or my trauma is running me. The
And the
consciousness.
loss of that life force energy flow, in Nia, we have what we call the H's, the head, the heart, the hands, the hara, and the
Mhm,
heels. And so we're kind of looking at the same thing, but I love the idea of relating it to the idea of armor. I think most anybody can relate to the idea of what kind of armor am I wearing? What kind of muscular tension or joint locking is
mhm,
creating? So a tissue tension, joint locking, all of that creating the container or a body form where the flow of life force energy is not available. Therefore, we don't have the power and grace or the health and well being that we desire. So, what's your process in the morning then of waking up? What do you do to go to release? You just become aware of your jaw or your pelvic floor.
well, that has now an evolution. It has a Nia story now in it,
Okay.
um, and my original practice before Nia was just to do an inventory. Is contract and relax my eyes, contract and relax my jaw, contract and relax my throat, contract and relax my chest and fists, contract and relax my diaphragm. Work my way all the way down So I can start the day with the felt sense of center. And then have adopted in recent years an artist practice. So I write out 3 pages of morning pages, Julia Cameron's guidance or her structure, all the junk out. I get all the junk, all my worries, all my
You
fears.
clean house.
I clean house every day. And I mean, all the stuff that I wouldn't even want people to read because I burn them after I'm done. Like so I clear out. Then I sit in meditation for 15 minutes to 30 minutes, listening now. I mean, the writing practice, the softening of the armory bands and the writing practice are clearing out and sending my intentions out to spirit. And then I sit and listen in meditation, and then after I complete that meditation, I start to do organic movement.
Mhm.
Used to just do only Joe work, which is part of Aikido and part of the Strozzi coaching work. But now I've integrated Nia work. I roll onto my floor and I start just doing the 5 stages. I start doing the Feldenkrais work. I reenact um, the stages of learning to walk. And feel that, and reenact that back to standing, back to a felt sense of I am my right to exist, and my personal power and my creative power, my dignity. So I feel my vertical line, and then I follow it with a practice. It's usually one of 3 practices connected to a declaration. So I may do a 2 step, an Aikido 2 step, and then extend usually to the southwest. That's my best direction. And I extend and I speak my declaration. My hands held up high in a body of declaration, and I speak the declaration I've been speaking now for 3 years. I am a commitment to the unification of the fitness and the somatic body. I follow my bliss and receive assistance and protection from invisible hands. And then I feel my organism. I feel those words land. Or I'll do that with a 31 Aikido Jo practice where I speak my declaration, do the 31 Jokata, then speak my declaration, and then feel. And in the last year now, I've incorporated I go through all a little an eclectic mix of all the different arts in Nia, and I'll use one of those, declaration. I'll go through a spontaneous movement through all 9 arts, and then speak my declaration. So I'm playing around with that one right now as a movement artist.
Well, I'd love to see the your Joe with modern dance, Dunkin' dance expression. I would really love to see that.
I can video that for
Yeah.
you.
So, now all this happens before you have coffee, apparently, right?
Yes. Well, I forgot one thing to say is, I be there's one other thing is I measure my heart rate variability
Yes.
before the somatic practices. So I put a chest strap on and I have an app and I measure um, my heart rate variability and find out objectively from the outside in what kind of feedback my vagus nerve is reporting. And then I ask myself, what is my felt sense? So I don't give Morpheus, this HRV system, all the power. It's one half of the whole. And then I feel into my organism and say, does that align with my self-assessment? And then it helps me navigate the day. How am I going to spend energy that day? Do I have a lot to spend? Or should I be a little more conservative? Or should I just really, if I don't have a lot of a recovery, then maybe I should just punt some things till I have more capacity. Then I go through the armory bands. Then I go through the meditation, the morning pages, the meditation, the movement, the declaration.
Beautiful. Let's chat a little bit about measurement. So fitness measures, right? But somatics measures via the felt sense. And oftentimes that subjective felt sense has not been respected in science, but certainly in the somatic world, it is vitally important because it personalizes the experience for the person in the body. It's a self reference measurement for the individual. Sharing that self reference with a personal trainer who has diagnostic information is a great way to bridge, right?
Mhm.
The the science and the mystery, I guess you could
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
Now that I have done this with you, and the idea of measuring and me being able to say, well, I think I slept this well, and I think my recovery is at this number. And then putting on the chest strap and getting a read from my body that is a measurable scientific read and comparing that to the felt sense was a great, great exercise in me learning about my felt sense. Did I think that I was feeling a certain way when my body was actually sending me a different measurement? A couple of times, yeah. A couple of times I thought I was higher in the recovery, and I was like, oh my gosh, really? I couldn't perceive it. And what we want to do, I'm hoping as trainers and teachers in helping our clients or just living in our body, can we perceive somatic truth as a measurement to then manage our life force energy and make healthy and well choices? Tell me, tell the listeners a little bit about the Morpheus device because I it blew my mind.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting story. I mean, a lot of my story is serendipity and synchronicity. I crossed paths with various people on my journey, and the creator of Morpheus is a friend and colleague, Joel Jameson. Been working together for about a decade. I was working at a commercial fitness facility at the time, and as it is in commercial fitness facilities, you have these meetings where they're just moving through 20 different products that they're promoting. Like they just have a slide for 3 supplements, 2 devices. A large fitness company. It just has a lot of movement, and we were going through their slide deck of all these new products at the time, and all of a sudden they gave like 1 minute to heart rate variability, and it was called Bioforce at the time. And I just said, stop right there. Can I take a picture of that? And just I took a picture of it. And then they went on 20 more different products and services that they wanted us to promote. And I was like, I've always asked my clients, how do you feel? How do you feel today when they came to the session? But I always had the intuition that some were able to read their body, act the sensations in their body accurately, and some were not interpreting the sensations in their body or even able to feel it, let alone feel it. And so I started to study heart rate variability. I started to use the device. I started to reaching out to the creator, Joel Jameson. We started a relationship around a deeper understanding into heart rate variability and the science of it.
Mhm.
And I remember once I became competent in understand reading the data as well as my somatic work, they were both concurrent. I remember there was a client that wasn't changing; they weren't losing weight,
Ah,
and I was always asking them, how do you feel? And when they would say they felt energized, I'd work them out hard. And when they told me, oh, I'm exhausted, I feel heavy, then we would just do restorative, soft tissue work, myofascial work, active isolated stretching, and they weren't changing. And so it occurred to me that maybe um, that they weren't interpreting their body correctly. They weren't interpreting what they felt because I went back on the days they said that they were energized. Their recovery was like red. It was red, like 37%. And then the days that they were exhausted and heavy, they were like 98% green. And so I began to surmise that perhaps their experience was legitimate, but they might be not be interpreting the sensations in their body properly.
Totally. Yeah. Now, what is it about the heart rate variability and a measurement of recovery?
Mhm.
How does that drive the action of what the workout will be?
That's another great question. So Morpheus or any quality heart rate variability system, and there are a few out there that are really right on with this, the science, um, is it's measuring deviations in your average HRV. So a deviate, if this is the average line, if you spike up, you deviate above. If your average is 70 and you spike up to 85, well, that's indicative of a parasympathetic uber healing response. If you drop down to 55 or 60, that's indicative of a sympathetic fight or flight response. Your organism either expended so much energy you breached your energy ceiling, or you're introduced to a new stressor that the nervous system couldn't orient to. It didn't have a template. So for initially, it will go down, recalibrate, and if you get the proper recovery, then the next time you expose yourself to that stressor, whether it's a workout, uh, a difficult person, or a difficult situation, it will rise to the challenge. Your body will have learned how to handle that stress with less calories expended. I mean, it's the wisdom of the body. It still amazes me. So what that's doing when you're I'll get a little technical here, but when if this example, your average heart rate is 70 and you come up at 70, that means that you're likely going to have high recovery, 80% or higher, which means stick to your workout plan and stay the course. And I write out 12-week written programs for all my clients so they know they look at the plan and they have easy rebound workouts, medium stimulation workouts, very difficult development workouts. And so if they're green, it means stay with the plan. If they're amber, it means there's a moment of choice there. Morpheus is not predicting performance. In other words, or HRV in general, it's not predicting performance. In other words, you could break the world record on a 10% red day, but the metabolic and energetic cost of breaking the world record on a 10% red day will be much higher than on a 100% green day. So I just like to say that it's not predicting performance, it's predicting the cost of stress. And then you can say to yourself, well, if I do break the world record in the 100-yard dash or a marathon or having the most exhaustive business day ever, then you want to think, well, how can I give myself an extra day or two of recovery, give my organism an extra day or two of recovery to let the wisdom of our old brain rebuild us back up. So the next time we try to do that, we can do it with more easily. And so that's the decision point that my clients and I are in on a lower recovery day is if you do you want to stay the course with your schedule, but then we might back down the next 2 days, or they might just back the workout down from a hard workout to a medium workout and just have that more of a medium week and then get back on track with their regular dosing of the stress of their workouts in the following week.
It's such a recipe to take a human body, the individual in the body, their perception of how much energy they have, the measurement of from Morpheus or some other apparatus that lets them know a scientific reality, and then to be able to objectively say, "Wow, I felt this, but the measurement is this." And choice, making the choice of how am I gonna use my body? How am I gonna use my perception of life force energy today so that I can sustain, recover, get stronger, have a marketable change that I might be looking for. And the word effort comes to mind.
Mhm.
When, in Nia, we always talk about dynamic ease, just using enough effort to do what you want to do, whether that's push more or just push with ease or have flow, whatever it is, still requires effort. And we use this level 1, level 2, level 3 to enhance range of motion, whether it's vertical or horizontal. So somebody can work within their kinesphere or their range of motion. But when it comes to the efforting of squeeze, release, of push or pull,
Mhm.
I find sometimes that individuals are fearful of making that choice to give it a little more. We call it give it a little more push until you hit what we call, okay, enough, right? And
Mhm.
yet, what is it about that extra oomph or push once in a while? How does that really add to our overall energy reserves?
Well, I have a lot to share on that topic. That's a deep topic. Um, so I guess I'd like to just start with where I go to is capacity. Is
Mhm.
the beautiful thing about our organism is that it has this capacity to adapt to stress, and that we can, if we expose ourselves, as you said, to that just the right amount of we can stretch ourselves just a little beyond our current comfort zone. I think what was the flow state was like 4% beyond um, our current equilibrium. Then our organism recognizes that and monitors that, and then it builds our capacity, our capacity to do more the next time. Our tendons are a little thicker, our muscles a little stronger, our brain is a little sharper. Our heart has a bigger left ventricle and can push more blood out, so that we can do that activity that was once on our edge, now is well within our capacity. And then in the recovery based fitness model, especially with Morpheus, around how it's explained scientifically. So I think what I'm going to do is explain those two
Mhm.
structures and see if I can draw some parallels, um, and make some connections here, for us in the audience. So in somatics, you study something called the rhythm of energy. We all have an energetic rhythm. We awaken, we increase our energy, we contain our energy, and then we release or complete our energy. And as that could be with an idea, we awaken an idea, we build it, we start planning it, we contain it, we manifest it, it becomes a thing, and then we finish it. And that could be a inspired project, or a primary relationship. Um, there's a number of ways that we energetically flow through life. And in somatics, with regard to this idea or this notion of containment, is really where we have intimacy with our idea. It manifests, and we interpenetrate with it. And so some people in a specific domain of life, they awaken in that domain of life. Let's say it's with a fitness program, since we're talking about health and fitness, and they get excited. They see a commercial, they buy a new product, and their awakening is strong. They join a gym, they make their own home. They get a subscription, and then, but their container to hold the practice is perhaps quite small.
Mhm.
And then once it gets difficult or intrusive, they discharge from it prematurely, and they aren't able to stay with it long enough, contain it long enough till it automates in their nervous system, and they embody it. So in somatics, there was always this idea, and I used to do this. I had a prop early on in my coaching work, Richard Strozzi used to always teach it as the cup and the quart. It's the cup of who you are. It's all the knowledge, love, relationships, spiritual awareness you can hold at that given time. And if you pour any more into that person, they overflow. They
Right.
can't contain it. And so somatic coaching is, as we feel into our organism, where we start to long for or imagine or vision the court of what we could be.
Yeah.
And so we take this cup and we say, this is either causing breakdowns in my life or it's no longer satisfying. Or I always loved Richard's, um, uh, how he knew it was time to let go of something. I'd never thought of this. When he gets bored with himself, like it's a legitimate reason, the idea that you can say, hey, this is no longer satisfying. I'm going to show up this particular way. I'm going to say these things and everybody's going to applaud and there's no life in it for me. To set intentionally, choicefully set that part of ourselves down, and which is the hero, which is a hero's journey, and leave the known world and travel this space between what we've been and who we long to become, and how to have a structure and a set of relationships and practices that can guide us there. And then until we can pick up this court, and we are that court. In other words, we've
Yeah.
changed our self-assessment and we've changed the assessment of others. We're moving differently in the world, and people are moving differently around a different assessment of us. So in fitness, that could be, I'm a hell. I'll borrow a phrase from a client of mine that, um, you know I'm a healthy tomboy who eats healthfully. She spoke that declaration, and then she goes through a set of practices, as you and I have talked about, tracking, building a trail of evidence for herself and others that she is this. And then the first time she hears somebody from the outside in say, "Wow, you healthy and you eat so well." That's an affirmation from the outside in, and that she also assesses herself, and she's become that declaration.
Yeah.
Say the transformation is complete. I mean, talk about, I told you when I first went to that first somatic workshop, people were speaking declarations with body postures. I mean, and it's so normal for me. I'm in probably on my 10th declaration in 18 years as I've manifested, released it. I mean, it's just so normal now. But in our conversation, I think back to that, for hearing that first person stand up to a fireplace. Yeah, it's been I've traveled quite the distance. But
The travel, right? The hero's journey. I love the concept of the hero's journey, and you know, I believe that we are all heroes at some point or another. We have done something that we admire. We have done something that we're proud of. I can remember feeling that even as a child, bringing a picture home that I drew to my parents.
hmm,
There was a sense of pride of look what I did. It felt like a huge outstanding achievement. It was a picture of a house on a piece of paper, right? But it felt like an outstanding achievement. When you think about yourself and people and having survived many, many different steps, thresholds, stepping over them, maybe some not even walking in the door, things that you've attempted in life, things that you were successful, things you attempted and you walked away from, or you laid it down. You said, not for me, kind of thing. How how has the the act of just stopping and pausing for a moment to connect to the felt sense and declaration played a part in you having a successful walk on the hero's journey?
it's foundational. Um, you know, um, though when it was first introduced, it again seemed esoteric, and it's crucial that we language lives in the body. We are language. Communication is nonverbal, is bodily, 93%. And not only that, but there's for me a spiritual component that when a declaration is an illocutionary act. When we speak in there's silence, which for me is spirit or the unmanifested. And when we speak and we disrupt that silence, the universe responds to our commitment, and it responds to that declaration in a very concrete, reliable way. In my experience, I can't see in a sensory way the the force that guides that. I can't see it with my eyes. I can't feel it, as wet or rough. But I can't see gravity either. And I know that when I drop this pen right now, that I can trust that it's going to fall onto the paper. I can still, even though I'll never fully understand that, I can still rely upon it and align myself with it. And so for me, declaration and the universe's response and collaboration is as reliable as gravity. So when I speak into the silence, I disrupt that silence and I speak it with full commitment and intention, then the universe responds back. And so what I've manifested, I always am very aware that it's a partnership, with the unmanifested. I have to do my part. I have to allow these visions to come through. I have to keep clearing myself out and block and release my negativity, and keep my nervous system open. And I have to take the actions and speak and follow that up with action. And then there are these invisible hands, as Joseph Campbell says, that come in, however you hold them, that predictably, reliably come in, and they spontaneous meetings happen. Things that are beyond my neocortex's ability to plan it on a piece of paper happen. And so, without declaration, we don't initiate that power into our life on the hero's journey. That's how I hold it, or that's how I experience
Yeah.
it. And
That it's like setting the focus in Nia, right? And when we talk about the hero's journey and what you're doing with declaration, it's really preparing for the departure and really getting ready. You know you're going to depart. You know you're going to have that initiation. You're going to return. If I think about every single day as a hero's journey, having those three parts to it, what you're talking about really with that declaration and all that preparation is getting ready for the departure, setting yourself up for the day, whether it's journaling, getting rid of the tension, the cleaning out, letting the universe know, hey, I'm here to be of service. This is what I'm going to manifest with you. The
yeah,
collaboration with the universe is so very important. And I love that as a concept to bring into the hero's journey. I often think people believe that they're taking the journey by themselves, they feel alone, and to
mm,
know that the universe has got your back, calling upon putting yourself in the center of the universe and voicing that, right, is a
mhm,
very, very powerful, powerful act. Um, the departure, leaving behind the world that we know. I think that what has happened over the last 3 years with COVID was a humanitarian hero's journey. We had to leave behind what we know. And I still hear people, "I can't wait to get back." And I go, "You're not gonna get it back. We're on a different journey. The train has left the station." And that, everything is being affected. Have you noticed a higher degree of stress in yourself and in your clients due to the fact that we have departed from what we knew? We are on a different journey collectively, socially, politically, individually than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. And especially around COVID being, initiating us,
Mhm.
as a species.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, my experience when COVID happened, it was the impetus of all of my hero's journey with this particular company with Heroic Fitness Adventures. I just remember when COVID hit and everything shut down, I leaned on my Aikido training. And for those listeners that don't know, Aikido is a Japanese martial art that its whole focus is it's a spiritual martial art that focuses through circular movement in transforming conflict into harmony. And so, Morihei Ueshiba, the founder, he I read many of his books, and he said conflict is the beginning of life.
Mm.
Conflict is the beginning of harmony, as he said, as death is the beginning of life, is what he said. And so I remember when COVID hit and everything falling away and all the conflicts and the stillness. I remember the palpable sense of
Yeah.
stillness, of nothingness.
Yeah.
And I remember saying out loud, conflict is the beginning of harmony. And so my orientation through that Aikido teaching was looking for what can grow out of this conflict, this ending. And so for 10 weeks, well, all the fitness clubs were shut down. I had been um, working in two locations, one location as a somatic coach, one location in a commercial fitness facility. And so I thought, well, I'm never going to have 10 to 12 weeks to just create like all
Yeah.
the ideas that have been stirring in me, but life was moving too fast. And I thought, well, this is going to be a 10-week laboratory, and I'm going to get all of these ideas and longings and visions out of my mind's eye and in onto paper. And I'm going to not only get them on paper, but I'm going to live it. I'm going to practice this unification of the fitness and the somatic body day in, day out. And so for me, it was a very creative time, largely because of that Aikido instruction. And
Mhm.
so when I came back, um, I had, and some of my other friends in the fitness business, they took it as a time to sharpen the saw. Unfortunately, some very talented trainers thought it was a vacation. And they came back and they thought they could just show up the same way and that people were just going to sign up. And I remember having some conversations with some fitness colleagues and us saying, we're going to have to be better when we get back, if we get back. And so when I came back, I had this whole new orientation, and there was another conflict upon returning to this commercial facility. Is none of my clients would go in the building,
Yeah.
and so there was another conflict, and I remember saying, "Well, conflict is the beginning of harmony." I mean, I'm going to test you, oh sensei. Let's see if this is real. And so I thought, well, they won't come in the building. I have all these new things that I want to share with them. And at this facility, there was a 10 by 25-foot storage shed that hadn't been used in like 5 years. And so I said, can I just clean that equipment up and just train them out there? They can swipe in and then I'll let them in the gate and I'll just train them in this, you know, 10 by 25-foot storage shed. And they said, whatever you have to do to get your clients back. And so that's what I did. I transformed this whole field, sketched it out on paper, and almost every client, I hadn't even been in the building in like to train somebody in like 4 months. And I had what was what was somatically what I was feeling, I could feel this aliveness in this 10 by 25-foot shed. It was palpable. I was expanding. I couldn't wait to um, retrofit it and build it. And to me, it was the dojo of this facility. I wanted more of that, that I could blend the fitness and the somatic body in that 10 by 25-foot container and feel it. And people were loving it. Even in February in Minnesota, I had propane heaters, they were biking, they had hats on, they were loving it. And we all could feel it. And so I trusted, follow the life, is the Aikido phrase and the somatic phrase, follow the energy. And it was undeniable to me, the aliveness I was feeling blending those two bodies in that shed. I have great pictures I'll show you sometime. They're fantastic. And so that's what, led me to that. And my clients really were longing for it post-COVID. They just didn't want someone to run them through a workout. They wanted somebody that was attending to their whole being, not just to meet them twice a week and then, yeah, you should probably hit some cardio two other days a week. They wanted someone that was going to build an entire plan from them and monitor it for them and bring up questions about why does it all matter? For the sake of what are we doing this workout? Tying a powerful narrative to the behavior. So that's what I noticed. And so it was a very creative time. And I noticed that, with COVID, some people, it expanded them. That was my experience. And in some people, they were holding on to the old, and it created a lot of conflict.
Awesome. Well, I love, we're gonna end this first part of our discussion on mastery, body, and life, departure, initiation, and return. I think, Billy, you have so beautifully described what does that mean to seize the opportunity, to not look back, but to look forward. Our part two, we're going to take you through every single stage of the hero's journey, which is one of transformation, looking forward. Billy's got more for you. But if you want to find out more right now, all you need to do is go to heroicfitnessadventures.com. I'll say it again, heroicfitnessadventures.com, no spaces. And you can find out more about me by going to debbierosas.com. Searching Nia, you can go to nianow.com, and to receive 2 weeks free of the Nia experience, you can go to Nia on Demand. Thanks so much for joining me, and don't miss part 2. And remember that this is our time to get in, to connect, and to create change together. This is the time for we to be on that journey together. I'm Debbie Rosas. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.